Yeah. What is up? Sixers Therapy, episode number 2. We are on the Sixers season opener eve. And man, do we have some things to talk about as we're tuning in. And I mean, even compared to last week, where we are now is like a completely different mindset. So I'm interested to hear what these guys have to say. I'm interested to hear what the chat has to say. There's been so many conflicting opinions today, and I think it's going to be a really good discussion. So welcome on in, RB, Sean Bernard, MJ. No Eastwood tonight. He had to cancel. He's ramping up for the start of the season. Add him to the list, man. Now, look, man, tomorrow it all gets underway. Sixers versus Bucks. We'll talk about that for sure. We'll get into that. But we obviously have to start with the news of the day. Is Joel Embiid and Paul George both out for tomorrow? And the statement of the day is this: the 76ers are lying to us about Joel Embiid, and we should be concerned. Sean, take it away.
Wow. Okay, you went stronger off the top ropes than I expected for that intro right there. I'm not quite.
It's Sixers therapy, man. We got to come in strong. These people need a therapy session today, Sean. At least from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely on that one. So I guess for me personally, I think there are two separate parts of this question here. I think there's number one, the actual decision for Joel Embiid not to be playing in game one. And number two, I think it's the management of it from the Sixers organization. Now, for Joel to not be on the floor, I personally don't have a huge issue with. And I understand that that's a hot take that a lot of people disagree with that. In an ideal world, Joel Embiid can play all 82 games and he looks like himself from start to finish. We don't live in that world. This is a guy that you have to treat to a little different standard. We have not seen him in a healthy playoffs. And all I hear from Sixers fans in general is that only the playoffs matter. Or that's a regular take of wake me up when the playoffs starts. Well, now the Sixers begin to be proactive in giving a game plan where it is put in place. This is not a reactionary once he gets hurt, kind of scratching and clawing, trying to get him back to 100%. I understand the concept and agree with the concept of having this. Now, with all that being said, there should have absolutely been a clearer game plan laid out publicly for what the game plan was for this management. All we hear from Nick Nurse, and I do feel bad for Nick Nurse to an extent because this is very clearly above his head. He's very frustrated by it himself, I'm sure, in this situation. Like Kyle Neubeck doing his job, asking him basically, what's the situation? You're saying there's no setback, there's no re-injury, but you guys obviously knew the season opener. What's the deal here? I do feel bad that Nick Nurse is the guy that has to fall on that sword because that's not his fault, and I guarantee if it was up to him entirely, Joel's probably playing this game. So for me, I guess it's two separate sides of this, that the decision for him to actually not be playing, I understand and to an extent agree with. The management has been about as bad of it as possible. I do think from top to bottom that there could be a PR lesson given to the Sixers organization here.
Sean, RB.
Uh-oh.
I know where this is headed.
I'm so out. I am so out. And this really pissed me off. It really did. Because it's like, why are you playing in the Olympics? Sure. I get, at least with Kawhi Leonard, he's a 2-time Finals MVP. 2-time champion. If he wants to play in the Olympics and, maybe potentially risk his, season, well, guess what? He's a champion. He's earned that. Why are you playing for USA and you haven't gotten past the second round in the for the Sixers? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I could really see, let's say he wanted to play for Cameroon. I could see if he play for them because, all right, well, if you medal with Cameroon, some could argue if you medal with Cameroon, that could mean more than a championship because it's kind of like the whole if Manu, if he with him and Argentina, he could say that, hey, that meant more to me than winning with the Spurs. I could see that. But what value do you get out of playing the Olympics and then not being here for the season opener? I don't believe that the Sixers wanted to be that their superstar player, their franchise player, ain't there for the season opener. If you want to load manage and you want to have him, not play back-to-backs, all that, all right, I get that. but I agree that it's some serious stuff probably going on with his knees that we don't know about, that the Sixers are trying to, go ahead and hide, because the season opener, that sets the tone for the whole season. If y'all not there to begin with, what that's saying is Tyrese Maxey, you got to now become a superstar.
Yeah.
Because if you're not that superstar player, the Sixers, they'll have trouble making the playoffs. Because if you have Joel Embiid in and out, Paul George in and out, and then Tyrese Maxey is the guy that, is there each and every game, he's going to have to be a superstar. Otherwise, the Sixers have no hope. So my spirits are down, y'all. Spirits are down. I just pray, I hope that maybe this is an overreaction and in a week or two, the gang is back together. But my last point on this is, I think, Sean, you said, it was a really good point last episode. And you said Paul George is one of the best players to plug and play. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, like these are players that plug him in any system, they're going to cook. The thing is, it's like, I want this big three to at least play like 25, 30 games together in the regular season. We gonna need him to play some games. Otherwise, if you play like 9 games like the Suns or Clippers do with their whole team, you have the Pacers, you have the Magic, you have the Cavs, you have the Celtics right now who are on another level. The Bucks, like the Knicks, it's too many good teams to be out here not playing that many games together and think that, hey, we're just so talented, we're gonna go ahead and overcome it.
Shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Hit the like button. Welcome in Sixers Therapy, a much needed therapy session. This is going to be interesting because I agree with both of you to an extent, but I also disagree. I came in to the offseason. I don't know where this notion of RB was cool with the Olympics came in. I didn't want him to play in the Olympics. I said it multiple times. Go back, check the facts. But I wasn't going to stop a man from representing his country. Like, if that's what he wanted to do, shout out to him. He looked fine. He looked fine in the Olympics. So like MJ said, what happened? What happened between the Olympics where he didn't even play that much to the start of the season? All off season, I said, if they want to load manage Embiid and this is the route they want to go, fine. Let's finally try something different. Let's do whatever it takes. But I agree, you can't play them together, 30 games in a regular season? 40? Now, maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves, but they need to play. I was fine with them load managing. They don't want to play back-to-backs? No problem. But now you're saying he's going to miss the first 3 games at least of the season. That doesn't strike me as this is a load management plan. So when Nick Nurse comes out and he says, well, this is all part of the plan, we're going to reference that multiple times this season. It's all a part of the plan. What is the plan? Because if you came in and were actually transparent and you said, okay, we're going to take a similar approach that we did with Toronto and Kawhi Leonard. They played 60 games in the regular season. That was a plan. And they got to the playoffs healthy and won a championship because he was fresh. I'm cool with that. But to lie to us and now say he's out for at least the first 3 games and then we'll reevaluate. Any Sixers fan knows that the word reevaluate is a trigger for something dangerous. And right now, I do not feel good about the Joel Embiid situation. I think PG will be fine if he can hold up. Now Maxey gets the keys. I'm happy about that. But Joel, you played in the Olympics. We thought you'd be fine. You shouldn't have even come back at the end of last season. I get why you did. I'm happy that you did. But this is not it to start the season, man. And now the vibes are down. It's frustrating.
Yeah, vibes are definitely down. So I will be defending the Olympic decision because I was in favor of that throughout and still stand by that. Now, the most positive takeaway, in my opinion, from that for Joel is that he had to learn how to play in a lower usage role. That's been something that I think is going to be very important to this specific Sixers team, that he has to lean on Tyrese Maxey and lean on Paul George in a way that he never has with co-stars before. You're forced to do that when you're sharing the floor with LeBron James, Steph Curry, and all the other greatest players in the sport right now. So that to me was what I was really excited about. And I do think he grew in that area, that I think that he showed some willingness to, be a screener, be a guy playing off ball. And I also, with Joel specifically, really the only way to keep this guy in shape is to keep playing basketball. So I was hopeful that that would be something that continued with that. Obviously, that part of things has not played itself out exactly. Now, by all accounts, he looks great, has lost weight. All these great things were coming out. But the letter of the law is he's not there to suit up for day one. So I get all that stuff there. I think the reality of his knees is he's unfortunately got some degenerative knee issues that aren't getting better. I don't think there's a 100% or an injury to be healing from. This is just something that we're going to have to manage for as long as he wants to play basketball moving forward. And that's frustrating. That's concerning, but it's something that they need to address head on and make it clear that like this is what we're dealing with. And by the way, when I see the Kawhi Leonard comparisons, what I will stick up for with Joel is we will see him on the court when he's not 100%. And for Kawhi, like I don't want to rag on the guy because he obviously has some real deal knee issues and stuff, but we just don't see him for stretches. At least with Joel, and last playoffs is a prime example of that. The dude will go down swinging and give you whatever he's got. I still believe we'll reach a point in the season where the risk reward, they absolutely have to opt into that and see what they got in him. But I am hopeful that this can be something that can be managed throughout. And that, again, I have an issue with like how it was made public or discussed or however you want to phrase it there. But I still understand kind of conceptually what they're thinking here.
It's interesting. Just looking forward, we all expect Tyrese Maxey to build off what he did in the playoffs. He was phenomenal. He improved from the regular season to the playoffs. That is a great, great sign to see. But now it's like, all right, Maxey, you were that young, up-and-coming guy.
You got paid now.
You got paid now. Now you were you all-star. Made a name for yourself on the biggest stage at MSG. I was literally on the train. I thought we were done, at least for that game. Thought it was over. And then you got here, half court 3-pointer, and extend the series. We're gonna need some more heroics from Tyrese Maxey. That's the only way. That's the only way. And then moving forward, I want the Sixers maybe again, like bringing in Paul George. I mean, that's a guy that if you're building around either Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey, that's a guy that is a great piece, like regardless of who it is.
Yeah.
But Daryl Morey has to, if he hasn't already, shift his mindset to be like, I'm building around Tyrese Maxey now. I'm not building around Joel Embiid. No matter how much you like Joel Embiid, at best, 30 plus years old, a bunch of injuries. Open this question to y'all. How many years do you think he has left at, in his prime, at his apex, with like two max? I don't see him going past 2 years and playing at an MVP level with all these injuries. I don't really see that. And so you have a guy, Maxey, he's the franchise for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So you gotta really be intentional with building pieces around him.
Here's my thing on that. It's just confusing the message, because as great as that sounds, how do we think Joel Embiid's going to look in a Tyrese Maxey-centric offense? How's Paul George going to look in a Maxey-centric team? Like, we brought Paul George in to be that final guy that can plug in, that can do what Tobias didn't. They brought in all the scrappy role players. But I think what we need to remember here, and I think it's why people are also frustrated beyond the hype, is like the team is completely different with Embiid. So Joel's not in. When he comes back in, the team's going to have to play different, completely different. It's, Maxey can run the show to an extent, but we all know when Joel gets back in that lineup, it's going to be feed the big fella, feed the big fella. So how do we game plan? How do we shape the team now around that? You know what I mean? The identity is going to be very confusing this season. I'm excited for Maxey. I think he's going to take a huge jump. But I just think this signals trouble if they don't get Embiid back early and get him going. And then what's his conditioning going to be like? Has Joel even been doing anything? Remember that summer, what was it, 2 years ago when he had plantar fasciitis? I feel like I learned so much damn medical knowledge as a Sixers fan. And the guy didn't practice the whole summer. And he came back and he looked terrible for a week. I don't know, man. I'm trying not to get the vibes down here, but it's not even just one. Jared McCain has a pulmonary contusion.
He's cleared, though.
But yeah, he's cleared, hopefully. Hopefully he is. Are we taking that at face value? Paul George banged up. Maxey thumb contusion. I don't know, man. Guys, talk me off the ledge here, man.
I got two questions
frustrated.
off that, RB. So, number one, what is kind of the sample size that you want to see for the big three of Maxey, Paul George, and Joel playing together? What's kind of the minimum number that you guys are eyeing? And the second part of that is when you think about the lineup without them, a starting five, this will be a little interchangeable, and I'm sure there'll be some moving parts throughout the year, but loosely around the Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, and Eric Gordon potentially is like a five there. What is the floor for that team from a standing standpoint? How well can that team hold up over the course of the season? Because I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than most. Miles, I'll throw it to you first here.
Yeah, I think we really have some great pieces. Really, yes, I love the Caleb Martin addition. Kelly Oubre, guy who was on a veteran minimum deal last year. We didn't expect much, and then he turned to be a great piece. So when I'm looking for this big three together, can I get 25 to 30 games? I don't feel like that's asking for much.
No.
I don't feel like it's asking for much. I just want 25 to 30 games that's y'all three on the court, because Maxey and Embiid, they know how to play with each other for sure. They've done that year in, year out. And then Paul George, like you've said, Sean, he's a guy that he's great off the ball. He don't need the ball for real. And he's very, very good in pretty much any system. So all I'm asking is 25 to 30 games. Optimistically, I can even say with Paul George and Embiid out, this could give more confidence for a guy in Andre Drummond, who he should have already prepared himself to be like, I'm going to be playing a lot this year. I'm not just going to be a regular backup center. Like I'm like the starting like 1B during the regular season, really. So he has to prepare to take that next leap. I'm looking for obviously Caleb Martin to go off. The guy from that was going crazy during the Olympics, Yabusele. I mean, he's got some heart. Yeah, he's got some heart, and he's a dog for real.
And
I'm looking at him.
He's crazy strong too.
Facts,
guys. Look, I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer here, but as much as a Yabu guy as I am, are we relying on Gershon to just be ready to be the backup big? Because look, I trust in Drummond. That's why I go out and get him, man. Drummond's a beast. I think Drummond will have some games where he struggles, but overall, he's going to do a much better job at filling the gap, which the Sixers did not have. Who's going to be the backup for Drummond long term? Is it Yabu? Like, is he ready to do that? I don't know.
Oh, no.
I would return your question, Sean, by saying you establish an identity in the regular season. And we've seen, especially in the last couple of years, I mean, you need your stars to win championships. They got to be ready. And look, if Joel Embiid gets a full playoff run healthy because of this, I'm happy. But I also think they need to play enough to establish an identity. They need to know where the rock's going to be, who's going to have X amount of touches. Like, you got to go into the playoffs clicking on all cylinders. You got to be healthy, but it can't be a brand new concept. It can't be like the Phoenix Suns where, hey, who am I on this team? Who are you? That's just one example, but I just hope Embiid comes back fairly quickly and they can get on the same page. Because I'm watching the Celtics and Knicks tonight. The Knicks are screwed already. I know we got Knicks fans probably in the chat, and I don't want to say too much. They're going to shut off Sean's Wi-Fi. But listen, man, the Knicks, they don't scare me already. Celtics are good, but who else? Who else in the East? The Sixers, again, have an opportunity to try to compete here. And I hope that they can, because I really think with Paul George inserted in to this core, this identity, I think they could be really good. If healthy. It's the one if we've been saying the whole time. If they are healthy.
Yeah, and I did put out there on Twitter that I've officially challenged Mikal Bridges to a 3-point contest. It does seem like he's found a little bit of rhythm in the third quarter, but that offer does still stand if we want to run that one back at any time there. But to your point, RB,
just on a side note real quick, man, is that not the most Sixer thing ever? Like, it feels like he would have been traded this offseason to the Sixers, and then forgot how to shoot the basketball. Anyway,
Yeah.
I digress.
Yeah, fate thought he was heading to Philadelphia, so he put the little hitch in his shot and then ended up getting sent to New York is how things worked out. But as far as the Sixers overall, like the East has gotten better. That like the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be better than I think they've been talked about. The Cleveland Cavs still going to be there. Orlando Magic taking a leap potentially. Indiana Pacers going to be in the mix. I do kind of buy into what they did last year and think they could take a step forward. The Sixers just have to find a way to avoid the play-in. That if you give me a top 6 seed and then you brace from battle from there is all I'm asking for. I think that can be done with this kind of backup unit-centered squad, with Tyrese Maxey running the squad, with Andre Drummond being a legitimate starting caliber big man. And obviously, this team will not hit its peak until it is Joel Embiid and Paul George in the mix there. Now, kind of when talking about these comparisons that both you guys have alluded to, the Knicks being an example, the Clippers being an example, the Suns another one, of playing limited games because of injuries and things not fitting together. I think one of the reasons that I have optimism for this Sixers team is the roles to me are so crystal clear already without them playing a game together that you know exactly that Maxey is a guard, that Paul George is a wing, that Joel Embiid is a big man. This is not Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal each trying to figure out how to share basketball. This is not James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving figuring out how they can each get their touches in. Like there is an established hierarchy here, and I do still give some value to even the videos coming out at training camp today of Embiid in the post, kickouts to a three-point shot to Joel, or learning how does he want the ball thrown to him. I think it's going to be a work in progress. It's not pretty, but I do think like the general consensus and reaction is a little bit more, this is the end of the world, this is disaster, than I think is the actuality to this point, at least until we find out some more details.
Sean, aren't the fans tired though? Like, and I know I'm playing devil's advocate here. Look, I want the Sixers to be successful, but I'm starting to lean into what I'm hearing today on all social medias. Like the fans are tired of this. Can we just start a season normal? Last year we had everybody healthy, but James Harden sat out, didn't say a word. The Simmons situation, or Embiid's got plantar fasciitis, or his conditioning's bad. Like, can we just have one normal start to the season? We felt like it was going to be this one, right?
Yeah, I can't even think the last time it's been a normal ever since 2021. Because 2021, Ben Simmons, the whole fiasco with him. Then it was the James Harden stuff, and now it's these injuries. I feel why fans. I'm one of those fans that's like I'm done. Like what are we talking about? And we see as the Sixers window keeps getting closer to being shut. For being honest, now we're seeing other teams in the East, like the Pacers, they're getting better. They have a young core there. The Magic, who I have Jamal Mosley as my coach of the year. I think Paolo Banchero, who gets no love for whatever reason, small market, he's gonna take another leap. The Cavs with Kenny Atkinson, they're gonna be rejuvenated. So it's not even just the Celtics who are on another tier, the Knicks or the Bucks, but it's the teams like the Pacers and the Heat that will always be in the mix, and the Magic and Cavs and those teams that are going to be real threats for the Sixers to stay out of the play-in if Joel Embiid, plays like 40 games this year, 45 games. And because honestly, if he's not playing back-to-backs, as he already said before the season started, he's already missing the first 3 games. It might be generous to say that he plays 41 games, which is half of 82. So even if he plays 40-some games, it's going to be hard to compete with the other teams that we know they're going to have their starters, out here playing for back-to-backs, 3 games out of the week or 4 games out of the weekend and all of that. So honestly, our focus should be looking at, all right, how can the Sixers compete in the regular season with the Cavs of the world, the Pacers of the world, and those like second tier teams in the East, and not even focus on like the top 3 seed. Like we just want to be out of the play-in because we don't want that.
One final point I want to make about Embiid, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Let us know in the chat. Once again, welcome in, like the show, share it around, give us your thoughts. We'll get to some comments Also, I want to hit this super chat before I forget. It was up a little bit. I don't know where it went. Oh, there it is. Kevin Clark, $2 super chat. He said, I bet Joe is injured and they are not saying it. Yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely something going on, but to the extent, the severity, we don't know, as normal. Shout out to Kevin. What do you guys think about this, man? I feel like Sean touched in on this, and some of us did last week. I feel like Joel gets injured in the most freak ways. Like, sometimes it's not even just him being beat down and worn down. He just makes an extra play, or he jumps too far, or he dies, whatever.
It's hit in the face.
Gets hit in the face. So, like, is this even going to prevent another injury? Maybe it's more of what we talked about last week, where early in the season, have nights where Tyrese Maxey can take over the rock and can go for 40. Or maybe Paul George can have a night where he goes for 35. Like, maybe that's the solution. Don't have Embiid go for 50 a game in October and November. Who cares? Get us to the playoffs healthy. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I expect to see that, to be honest. That I think that's a huge part of bringing in the talent. I think that's a huge part of Joel learning the lower usage role. That, like, as much as we have put a lot of blame on the supporting cast and they're not being the guys to step up, it's also on Joel to lean on those guys and give them shots, to pass out of double teams, not play through a triple team in the way that, like, he oftentimes does. And it's great that he's good enough to do that at times. But what is actually the best route for this team here is something that I do think needs to be figured out. So I expect that to be the case this year. I do think that we'll see a little bit more team-friendly basketball from Joel. And I do think that's kind of like on all parts for keeping him healthy, for the best success of the team, and really every single box. I think that is the answer there. So to your question, yes, RB, and that's basically what I expect to see when he is on the court this year.
And I would like just I'd like to add with Joel Embiid as well. Sean, you had a great point about how during the Olympics, he had to learn how to play in a system where he didn't have a high usage rate. I looked at him going into the Olympics like, learn from LeBron and how to be a facilitator. He already grew leaps and bounds from his first year in the league. Like last year, Joel Embiid was, for a big man, was a very good facilitator. So I was looking at him to just take that next step. Average 7 assists, average 7.5. Maybe I'm out on a limb, 8 assists, but try to, add that other element to your game that makes a guy like Jokic so unstoppable and so dominant. And so one takeaway I can get from the Olympics is, although I'm pissed off that you're playing the Olympics, winning a gold medal, that when you look back in your career, we're gonna be like, oh, that's that's not gonna hold that much weight if we're just being completely honest, that gold medal. But I can look at it and be like, well, during that experience, you learn how to become a better facilitator. So I would love to see his points actually go down and his assists go up. Yeah. That's what I'm looking to. And with how Joel Embiid plays, he plays on the perimeter too much, way too much. You're not a guard. You're not a wing. I think that's the reason. Get on the block. That's what Shaq, get on the block. You see how Jokic plays. He's really posting up most of the time. But when Joel Embiid out here against the Knicks first round, shot off a bad knee already, trying to do a off the backboard alley-oop. At what cost? At what cost? What are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, it's frustrating, man. And I just think this Sixers team, it's going to be trials and tribulations, man, until they can figure out what their plan is. Maybe they know, like, they have a certain amount of games, but I don't think their plan was to sit Joel for the first 3 games and counting. Like, it definitely feels like something is going on with that knee. There's no, plan, all right, play the first 2, sit 1. No, I mean, you're missing the first week of the season. And I want to give credit to Jimmy J. As much as we don't like him here, and he's a Celtics fan, long time on the channel, he makes a good point. We know the owners are about their money, right? At the end of the day, it's the bottom line. So are there games this year where people have bought tickets already and Joel's not going to play? What about PG? Is it a scheduled loss, as our guy Doc would say, who we'll see tomorrow night? Like, how does that factor into this? So you're teetering the line here, man. You're teetering the line.
To be honest, this was one of my hopes that this year would be more transparent than we've had in years past, because it was really frustrating. Think about how many nights we've heard the 1 hour before tip off and Joel Embiid might play, he might not, or he's going to go through pregame warmups and then we'll decide. Like, that happened all the time. So I was kind of hopeful with this new, like, the new normal of the game plan we have for Joel Embiid, that it would be just way more clear for when he's going to be there, when he's not, what we're braced for when watching these games. And certainly tickets are an impact on that. It should alter your mindset for whether or not you want to go to that game, whether or not Joel Embiid's playing. I totally get that. So I do think this specific situation, certainly that played a role in how much they kept it under wraps there. That's definitely not the most morally correct thing. And you're absolutely right, RB, that when you look at the owners of the Sixers organization, they know what they're about at the end of the day. It is about the bottom line. It is about money. And that's the unfortunate reality of sports to an extent here. But yeah, I do hope that changes moving forward, but certainly not off to a hot start for this year.
Yeah, we're seeing a trend. I mean, it's been a trend for a couple of years. The Spurs basically like ruined it when they would low manage and then they actually like won. And people were like, oh, like we can go ahead and do this. And then in marquee games, on a Christmas Day game, or marquee games like a Friday night, Sunday, the biggest stars aren't playing. It's terrible for the fan. Like it's really bad. That's why I have so much respect. Now, granted, like I do believe Joel Embiid and Paul George are legitimately injured, but I feel bad for the fans that they pay money, and then sometimes these athletes are like, I'm gonna just take a night off. Like this fan, like, worked really hard for this money, and obviously the team, the owner, they're not gonna give them a refund for the game. No, you got to watch the reserves out here. So it's crazy. I don't know if like the NBA is gonna end up lowering the amount of games. But then I think about that.
For them too.
They're going to raise the amount of games.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do. And there's just the last couple of years, the teams have been depleted in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's been a bad product, man, but they're not going to decrease the amount of games. They're adding the in-season tournament. Next, it'll be the opening day tournament. It'll be the preseason tournament. Like, I mean,
it's always more.
They're incentivizing games in December. In December with a different colored basketball court in order to get people interested. Are the Sixers going to try in the in-season tournament?
No.
What if Joel Embiid is on one knee? Is he going to come back for the in-season tournament?
That would piss me off.
I would be so mad if he. I honestly, we might as well just rule him out for the NBA Cup right now. Let's get that one out of the way right away. That could be a Tyrese Maxey situation. Him running around taking care of business there. I do not care whatsoever about the NBA Cup, despite the NBA's best efforts for making this a highly accomplished award there.
All right, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Let's try to move forward. I know it's had a negative vibe to it, but look, we're just here reacting to the news and what's going on. But okay, we'll talk about tomorrow. The Knicks are getting blasted right now. They've lost this game.
Amazing.
They're down by, I think, like 30 points. Who's going to step up? Let's start with that. Who needs to step up? Top player or top two players that you think, especially now with the absence of Embiid and with the absence of PG, have to immediately step up for this team?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with, I don't think you can look anyone in the eye except Tyrese Maxey first here, is for all the reasons that we've kind of discussed on here, that you did get paid. You have taken this leap as this true all-star. You are looked at as this third piece of this big three here. Well, now it's time to hold up your end of the bargain when the big fellers and the older guys are not there. So I would like to see Tyrese Maxey take that next stride to show that he's capable of being a true 1A guy when the team needs it, which will be a situation like tomorrow. So Maxey's number one. My number two for this one, I'm looking at Kelly Oubre here. Oubre now in year 2 with the team, he looks comfortable. Nick Nurse has talked about how he's more confident in himself. He's kind of a new version of Kelly Oubre this year. Well, if you're going to continue on this developmental arc, if this is real, the way that you played last year, then let's see it and let's set the tone right from night one. So I would like Oubre to kind of send that message to the rest of the team that he is a key part of this core, of this unit for the short term. I have my eyes on that throughout the season for what is the true version of Kelly Oubre as it pertains to the Sixers team. I would like for him to make a statement and prove himself worthy of really having a high leverage role on this team, and that starts with tomorrow.
Yeah, for me, it's two players, Andre Drummond and Ricky Council. With Andre Drummond, I mean, it's self-explanatory. You're gonna be our starting center for many, many games, and you've got to go ahead and play like you did in Cleveland. In Cleveland, I mean, you were like, snapping in Cleveland and all of that. I believe he was with them, right? So I think I need at least 14 boards. You were saying that you were the best rebounder ever over Rodman, over all these all-time great rebounders. All right, bet. Like, go ahead and prove it. I need 14 rebounds. I need you to be dominant off the glass. That's something that we missed, especially in the playoffs when the Knicks were getting rebound after rebound, and Isaiah Hartenstein got $30 million a year for just getting rebounds and that BS floater. He got 30 mil off that. I don't know how, but
He didn't miss a single one.
Crazy. Yeah, he was. It's kind of like Sean Livingston when he would always make the mid-range jumpers. It's like, oh, that's just automatic every time. I'm like, all right, kudos to you. Ricky Council. Ricky Council is somebody that if Paul George is not playing, I want you to step up. I'm gonna give y'all some numbers real quick with Ricky Council. He shot a phenomenal percentage last year with limited time. 48% from the field, 37% from three. I know it's garbage time minutes. But I'm looking at that and being like, this guy, there's some potential there. There's some potential there. A lot of guys you have to play. They have to play a lot of minutes for them to get in the groove and all of that. But we saw flashes of that, and even like in summer league. I know it's summer league, but we saw Ricky Council show how prolific of a scorer he could potentially be. I'm looking for him to take that next step, average double-digit points this year. I would like to see that, and for Nick Nurse to let him loose.
Yeah, well, you guys mentioned the obvious one, so I'm going to give you one that I think is a little obvious, but also a hot take. So I'll start with the obvious one. Caleb Martin, right? You bring this guy in. I would expect Caleb Martin to give this team at least 10 points a night, whether it's in the starting five, off the bench. I feel like he can be a hybrid, scrappy player, can do all the little things. Sixers have needed a Caleb Martin for a long time. We thought it was PJ Tucker. Boy, were we wrong.
He had the attitude, lost the basketball ability.
Yes, he lost the basketball ability for sure. I hope Caleb is not in the same realm. I don't think he is. Very good player, man. Just going to do his job, going to figure it out, and it's just going to be where you need him to be. So I think Caleb Martin can have a big game tomorrow. You're going up against guys who can score the rock. Get in there, Caleb. Get your hands dirty early. And the hot take guy, as we continue to talk about now, the backup five, the backup four, the four, I'll tell you guys who I think is going to get minutes tomorrow, KJ Martin. I think KJ Martin is going to be trusted more by Nick Nurse than Gershon Yabusele. I'm just telling you right off the bat, just because Gershon has not played in the league, we know Nurse tends to lean on his guys. Like, Kyle Lowry's going to have 27 minutes tomorrow night.
Better not.
KJ Martin's going to get minutes tomorrow. I thought he's been really effective in the preseason, mostly as a defender, mostly as a guy who just, is finding ways to contribute, whether it's as a lob threat or a backdoor cutter. KJ Martin's fighting for minutes here. Let's keep in mind the Sixers still don't have a traditional power forward on this team. So we know KJ's a trade chip. Maybe he can boost his own value and the Sixers can get an even better trade package at the deadline. Maybe he just becomes a guy. Like maybe this is the KJ leap year. So yeah, I'm looking at KJ Martin tomorrow night. I think he'll get a good bout of minutes. What will he do in those minutes?
Yeah. I think that's a great point there. I am a believer that there's been a lot of positive buzz surrounding KJ Martin coming out of camp, his relationship with Tyrese Maxey. I thought Maxey had a really good response that was interesting to me as far as his ability off the short roll. And the comparison that Maxey made in his interview is think about what PJ Tucker was to James Harden as far as that guy that could unlock when guys went to double, that it was that little short dish, that Tucker in his prime was really good at picking teams apart, making the right decision. That's an area that he wants to see KJ grow in. And if you squint and see the kind of the flashes of it, I can see that happening there. So I know we've kind of talked bad about shooting coaches because of the Mikal Bridges situation here, but KJ himself spoke about how he spent plenty of time with the shooting coach this summer. If he improves to like a league average or slightly above 3-point shooter, his trajectory as a player changes pretty drastically. He's still only 23 years old. So I think the overall like sense about KJ Martin has been probably a little more negative than he deserves. And I think it's more likely than not that he's still probably traded at the deadline because that was kind of the whole point of bringing him back. But I'm with you, RB, that I think he'll get a clean chance to earn a role. And if he plays his best ball, who knows what happens there.
Yeah, no, that's definitely somebody. I mean, look, I love the way that Nick Nurse, instills confidence in the young guys. So I think they'll give him like, I know management's probably like, hey, we'll give KJ like, we'll see what he do in like 10, 15 games. if not, it's we on the trade. He probably already is on the trade block, but
Oh, yeah.
Daryl Morey is maybe hoping two things. Either KJ Murray can play out his mind, and then that can be, used to get a bigger piece, maybe an actual power forward, like a Kyle Kuzma, who I've been saying I really hope that we get him. I think he's a championship level role player. And or the other side could be, hey, if he's really hooping, we can get him on a little bit of a discount. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. These guys got to play a really good game tomorrow night. I don't know if it'll all be polished. I know they'll be competitive. I know Nurse's, system in itself is going to make this team play a hard game, which is nice to know, rather than, a Doc Rivers scheduled loss. Speaking of which, Doc will be on the other sideline. You guys heard my bold take last week. I think he will be fired during the season. Sean, you said earlier. Go ahead.
And no Chris Middleton, by the way, tomorrow as well.
Yeah, so Sean, you said earlier today that the Bucks are going to be better than people think. So I'm definitely interested to hear your explanation on that. But just to begin, right? This isn't a formal matchup. Like, we're not going to look back at this matchup, say, what did we pick apart from that? I mean, obviously we want Maxey to, go absolutely insane. But if we lose a game tomorrow, we're not looking back at this matchup in the playoffs. So without Chris Middleton, without Joel Embiid, without Paul George, like, what are the keys in this game? I mean, obviously you got to find a way to stop Giannis. Like, who's it going to be? What do you guys think that the Sixers need to do matchup wise to lock in and get this done? And do they have a chance?
I think they win tomorrow, RB. That forget Paul George and Joel Embiid. I still think this team shows up and takes care of business in the opener. My number one prediction right here, or what I expect to happen, I think Yabusele gets an opportunity to guard Giannis, and I think that his physicality is going to at least stir the pot or cause some troubles. I think that's like a good card to have. It's one that I hope Nick Nurse plays tomorrow, and I do think Yabu can stand up to him from like a physicality standpoint. That's when Giannis is at its best. When he's getting downhill, he's not being challenged. He's just relentless attacking the rim. Just throw a body at him that's going to be willing to provide pressure and stop that. So for me, that's number one. The biggest question that I have about this Bucks team is who's the real Damian Lillard at this point in his NBA career? Because if it's the version of him that he looked like last year, you can shut that championship window right now because he simply was not the guy that he once was. Now, with that being said, he dealt with injuries. He was obviously traded shortly before the season started. And we have seen Dame have some of the coldest moments of any player ever in looking at his prime days. So I'm not fully counting him out, but I am a little skeptical that, you don't typically get better as you hit your upper 30s at this point in his career, or mid 30s for Dame specifically here. So those are kind of the two biggest things. I also don't think there's that much around this Bucks team as far as the role players and the bench guys. Gary Trent's a great addition, that he's going to be a guy that plays a role there. But as far as guys that can create offense outside of that, it's a lot of Bobby Portis. It's a lot of Brook Lopez three-pointers. It's not a lot of things that scare me from a Sixers standpoint. So for me, I still think this is pretty internal, that the Sixers got to run their own sets, take care of their own offense, and focus on the way they want to play. But I do still think they can take this Milwaukee Bucks team.
Yeah, I think, speaking of Dame, I have a lot of respect for him. I think last year he was going through some personal stuff, so that obviously impacted his play. But I'm looking for Tyrese Maxey to outplay Damian Lillard. You gotta do that. I'm looking. That's a duel. That's one of those games that you mark on your calendar, Maxey, and you like, all right, I'm going to give him the business. Dame is not a defender for real. Maybe they might have Gary Trent on him. he's too quick for Gary Trent. It's going to get bad. So I'm looking for Tyrese Maxey to go off. It might be asking a lot, but I got high expectations for him. I believe a lot in him, but I want him to not only go for like 28, but also have 7+ assists. I want you to be more of a playmaker now, especially with these guys out. So I'm looking for Maxey to do that. Also, is Jared McCain playing?
Yeah.
How much? What are our expectations for Jared McCain? I mean, he's a rookie in the day. He a rookie, so I'm not gonna expect him to drop like 20, but I mean, I want him to show something, hit a couple threes.
Yeah.
I like to see that off the bench. Be a little spark off the bench.
Give me a pair of 3-pointers. That's my goal for Jared McCain, his NBA debut.
Yeah, I like to see that. And Kelly Oubre, I think our RB mentioned him. It's like I want him. He was a consistent scorer for the Sixers last season, especially when Joel Embiid wasn't out. It was like we could depend on Maxey and Kelly Oubre. Outside of that, it was like we don't really know. So, all right, now Kelly Oubre, Paul George ain't here. Obviously, that when Paul George is in the lineup, your role is diminished a little bit. But with Paul George out, we're looking for you to do what you did last season and show, hey, that wasn't a fluke. No, I'm really a 15-point per game scorer and a valuable role player on a championship level team, a championship contender. And so I'm looking for Kelly Oubre to be that scorer. I'm looking for Tyrese Maxey to not only be a scorer, but to be a playmaker, and I'll play Damian Lillard. And I think with the Giannis situation, Giannis is going to get, I mean, he's so great. He'll get his regardless. And just limit the offensive boards because Bobby Portis is known to really hound the glass. Now, there's going to be situations where Brook Lopez stretches the floor, and that might bring Andre Drummond to 3-point line, which kind of defeats the purpose of having him in the game. Like, we don't want Andre Drummond out in 3-point line. Like, we need his presence in the paint. But ultimately, we have to limit the offensive boards from the Bucks if we have any chance.
Man, I did not expect to be the villain on this show today.
Wow.
But you guys are, I feel like you're falling into the opening of the season syndrome, man. Sixers don't have a good chance to win this game tomorrow. I'm going to tell you why.
Hit me.
I will say, though, my lock, maybe it's a bold take. I think Drummond's going to get 20 rebounds tomorrow.
I like it.
I think Drummond's a monster. He's going to be like, I need to prove, that I can start, blah, 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 in front of the home fans. So I'm excited for Drummond. But I think one thing we, seem to forget here is that Brook Lopez turns into Steph Curry when he plays the Sixers. The guy doesn't miss. He doesn't miss. And MJ, you're absolutely right. He is going to pull Drummond out of the paint all night. Do the Sixers have a backup reinforcement down there? Is Yabu or KJ ready to be that guy?
Yeah.
First game? I don't think so. Now, I do think Maxey will outplay Lillard. I'm expecting Maxey to have a big game. He might have a lot of shot attempts, but Sixer fans, I want to warn you, please don't come with the overreactions tomorrow. Like, oh, Maxey's not the guy. Maxey's not it. Come on, man. It's game one.
Doing that.
He's missing his top two guys. Like, don't do that, okay? Maxey could have 30. We could lose by 30.
I've seen people crowning Jason Tatum MVP after the first half of the first game of the NBA season. Just everybody, some deep breaths here. There's a lot of basketball still to be played.
A lot of basketball to be played. And this game is not really an evaluator for me. So, there's going to be a lot of these this year. It's frustrating. It gives Maxey a chance, but, I think Caleb, like, who's going to even guard Giannis? I think it could be Caleb Martin at some stretches. And, I think he could do a decent job, but, Giannis is going to get all the whistles just like he did last year in the opener where they gave them that game. So Dame, Giannis, and Brook Lopez turning into Steph Curry, and then Bobby Portis is bringing that toughness. You even mentioned Gary Trent. I almost forgot for a second he was on the damn team.
Yeah.
So, man, the Bucks are going to win this game most likely tomorrow unless they have just like an epic collapse, which would be funny at the Wells Fargo with Doc Rivers.
Awesome.
But I do think there are positives that we can pull away from this game tomorrow. But I'm surprised I'm the only one that doesn't think the Sixers have a good chance to win.
And not to go ahead, MJ, you got something?
Yeah, I'm not too high on them winning, but I don't know what it is with Philly teams. I've kind of talked about this before.
The
But whenever
underdog.
Philly teams are underdogs or doubted, they always it's never when they're expected to win. It's never that. Whenever if
No audio, MJ. You cut out. Even the stream told you. They told you to stop, man.
damn, man,
There you
hey, like
he was gearing up for an epic one there, and they said, nope, cut it out, MJ.
they like cut it out. They was hey, I mean, look, I look at the Sixers, I look at the Phillies, I look at the Eagles, all Philadelphia teams, they don't do well when there's expectations, but when there's no expectations,
That's
Philly
true.
teams always show up. Start
Yeah.
out with the Phillies and how, and last year they didn't have expectations and they almost get to the World Series. Or the year before that, they get to the World Series when nobody thought that. They had expectations this year. We saw how that went. Eagles, same kind of thing. The Sixers, I mean, AI, who expected him to go out to the finals? The year that the Sixers were expected to beat the Hawks in 2021, we folded. And that was supposed to be like an easy road to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I know that that's the playoffs, not the same as a regular season, but that same sentiment reigns true that, hey, like, we're underdogs. Let's go ahead and prove that. And somebody commented like it's that Doc revenge game. I think it's gonna be an extra oomph for some of these Sixers players to be like, we got our coach, we got our guy. Let's go ahead and prove why we have our guy.
Yeah, not to change the subject up here, but Rudy Gobert receiving a 3-year, $110 million contract extension with the Minnesota Timberwolves, man.
No way.
Unbelievable how much money this guy has pulled in. And I should have played NBA basketball. That's kind of my takeaway. Jeez, that's
man.
So last week, I remember saying on here that some guy was arguing in the chat that Rudy Gobert was the right decision. I think I really don't think he's good, to be honest. And I think they made the wrong decision. But to now extend him on top of that, like,
crazy.
What do people see in Rudy Gobert? I know he's a great, defender in the paint and great rim protector, but the gig is up, man. Like the jury's out. We know you can't win with a center like that. Can't shoot, can't do anything offensively. You're talking about push shot. This guy can't even lay it in off the backboard.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get it, man. I don't.
And by the way, RB, I thought that became like common knowledge to this point. I thought that was like the more common take that people were aware. Like, there's just a ceiling on teams built around Rudy Gobert because, like, when you look at the shortcomings in the playoffs, it's either you get him switched out. Yeah, look at what happened with the Jazz. And by the way, like, there was way more on his plate in Utah than is the case. Like, they have Joe Ingles and Bogdanovich as like your primary perimeter defenders. At least it's like Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels here in Minnesota. So I guess you can lean on that. But yeah, I just think that there's flaws stylistically in the way that he plays. He can't switch out the guards on the perimeter. He has to play this system where everything's funneled into him. And when you get into playoff where every little weakness matters, his are a little bit too large that do play a role there. So can't believe that they continue to commit to him. But whatever. We'll see, Minnesota. We'll see how this all works out.
This is
Sean. The last fondest memory I have of Ben Simmons, although there are not many, is him cooking Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, 41.
That's all you need to know. Without shooting the ball, by the way. So as great of a rim protector as he is,
right there.
What do you have? Four defensive player of the years, 3, whatever it is. They need
Crazy.
to change that award, man. That's crazy. That's crazy, man.
It is, bro.
Wow.
And like Jalen Suggs getting 150 mil.
And they do it.
Jalen Johnson.
They do it after they finally go to the conference finals. Like, I think that's my realization, what I'm starting to see in sports in general with some of these teams. Like, these people in positions of power sometimes just overthink the situation, but way too much. I don't know. That's just my take on it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, a little breaking news there. So I had to jump that one in.
Shout out to Sean, man. Sean's our new Woj. No more Woj. Sure. He's retired. It's going to be an interesting season, man.
Yeah, it sure will be. Definitely not the start that we hope to get off to, but I'm going to keep riding high. I do think this team's got a fighting chance tomorrow. I think at the minimum, we're going to be in for a close game. I think the energy will be there. The guys will show up, and Tyrese Maxey's that dude, man. I think we're all going to see that this year.
All right, let's go to bold takes and then we'll do predictions. So let's go in line. One bold take from each person on the panel. Ladies and gentlemen, drop your bold takes in the chat. We'll read a couple out. Start with MJ, man. What's your bold take for tomorrow night's game?
My bold take
could be for either team, by the way.
Bold take, I'm gonna say Tyrese Maxey goes for 35 points. He shows out, and the Sixers shock the world, and they win. I started off not too high off the Sixers, and
he said he was out to begin.
I was out. But I'm looking at Tyrese Maxey. I'm saying, please just revive my confidence in my team, man. Come on, Maxey. Mad Max.
Wow. Okay. Sean, you've converted him.
I have. I'm glad to be the voice of positivity here. Far as I'll go 2 bold takes here. Number 1, I think Kelly Oubre, I'll go 22 plus points tomorrow. That I think Oubre is going to be in attack mode. I think he's going to be out there looking to prove a point that he is this dude for real, and I'll be excited to see it. I think the team could absolutely use that. So pencil me in for 22 plus points for Kelly Oubre. I also think Jared McCain in the debut. Give me double-digit points for McCain here. I think he knocks down a pair of threes, gets around the basket a little bit. I do think that he is built for the bright lights, and I honestly look back at his Duke tape. The dude is a real deal elite shooter in a way that I think is going to really benefit the Sixers team. It would not shock me if we bookend this conversation and revisit at the end of the season. That his role is far bigger than any of us have really talked about. So I'll be rooting for McCain, and very excited to see how he fits into the complete picture of the puzzle here.
So I gave you my bold take already of Drummond 20 rebounds. I'm going to go with another one just because I want to give a little bit of positive, just a positive dose to the show. Yeah. Sean earlier said that Yabu is going to defend Giannis and he's going to have that grit. I'm going to say Yabu channels his inner minivan, his inner George Niang. George Niang clamps Giannis, okay? I'm going to say he comes out in the first quarter, might have 4 fouls by the end of it, but I'm saying he's going right at Giannis. If Yabu's in the first quarter, he's going to have a couple steals. That's my bold take. Yabu on Giannis. Take it away, Yabu.
By the way, that's the number 1 way to get stamped quickly for the Sixers team, too. If he comes out and it's just a menace to Giannis in night 1, hang that jersey in the rafters, man. We're in.
And he can quickly become like a fan. Like I'm trying to tell you, Philly loves underdog stories. They love underdog teams, underdog stories. He can really be that type of fan favorite type of guy for the Sixers. And it's pressure on him as well, because it's like if you don't do well with the Sixers, they're just gonna look at you as like, oh, you're just one of those international players that just does well during the Olympic time for your national team. So come on, Yabusele.
And by the way, there is pressure on him from the contract standpoint too, because I don't know how much you guys read into the details of his buyout and all that, but more or less he's making basically pennies this year because just about all the money that he's being paid NBA wise was to get out of his buyout contract with Real Madrid here. Really the gamble that Yabu made is that after the season, he can sign somewhat of a real deal NBA contract, and that's where he'll actually make his money. So he's got to prove that he's worth that this year. So a lot of pressure on him as well.
Wow.
Man, I mean, everybody should be rooting for this guy, though. He hasn't played in the NBA in 6 years, and he's back. It's like a revenge tour. So, look, I hope Yabu comes out and shocks the world. That'd be awesome. Too. That'd be awesome, man. By the way, Kevin Clark, shout out to you for the super chat. Thank you, man. He says, I bought a McCain jersey, so he will be a stud for sure. All right, man. Let's talk about – actually, we'll go to a couple bold takes in the chat. Drop your predictions, though. Chat, drop your score predictions tomorrow night. We'll read a couple out. Here's a couple bold takes that we have in the chat. Kevin Clark says Maxey goes for 57. And Jared McCain drops a 15 piece. Wow. King says Drummond goes for 10 and 25.
Wow.
That would be nuts.
That'd be wild.
Let's see. Rakesh Drummond goes 20 for 20. We got a Lakers hot take. I don't know why we're talking about the Lakers. Caleb Martin 5 threes tomorrow night.
Why not?
Eric Gordon. Yo, we haven't talked about Eric Gordon yet on this show. I actually think he could start when the
Think he
full
will.
lineup is back, and
Mhm.
Kelly could come off the bench. But we'll save that for another.
I like that.
I like, Eric Gordon's been playing well, man, in the preseason. I think he shot 45% from three. Eric Gordon's been around the block.
If you can shoot, you can stay in the league. What?
Absolutely, man. Lee says Maxi 45 and 8 tomorrow. And then one more we got King. He says bold take Council with 20 points.
Love it.
Mostly
Need
off
that. We need that.
All right, man. Let's go to our score predictions. Drop them in the chat. Will the Sixers be 1-0? Will they shock the world? By the way, this game's on ESPN, so you already know the NBA is going to go against the Sixers, right? They're pissed off. They're like, we slated this game at 7:30 Eastern
they're
on
mad.
ESPN. Everybody's showing up. The tickets were probably $500 a piece, and a lot of the stars are out. So you already know the refs are going to be against us. You know the injuries are against us. With that being said, Sean, will the Sixers get it done tomorrow night? What will the final score be?
Yes, they will, RB, and the final score will be 111 to 109. Sixers get the win here. I do think this is going to be a battle from start to finish, but I'm way more optimistic about this team. That I like, as much as we talked about the top end talent with Paul George and obviously the big additions there, this team's also built to sustain the games without Joel Embiid in a way that I've never seen this roster constructed before. So obviously it's different on paper than in practice. We're going to get our first look at that tomorrow, but I'm feeling optimistic. I think the energy is going to be in the building, and I do think that they get a win tomorrow.
So with your bold take, does that entail like a game-winning shot, a game-winning stop, like a 111, 109? So I feel like you're projecting that.
I'm picturing a missed Giannis game-tying attempt right now. That's kind of what I have drawn up in my head. So 111, 109, Maxey hits a bucket to go up 2, and then Giannis can't come through to tie the game.
I feel like if that happens, though, they're going to give him the Brianna Stewart treatment, and I think he's going to the line for 2. But I don't think Giannis will make it. I would intentionally foul.
Yeah, might as well.
Everybody in the arena start chanting out the numbers in the free throws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, they're definitely gonna do that.
Oh, yeah.
They're definitely gonna do that. I feel like if the Sixers win, it'll be. It might sound crazy. It's gonna be like 10, 15 point win. I don't see them in like a close game winning, because all the Bucks will do a little double maxi and force everybody else to beat you. Like they're just, all right, Kelly Oubre, you want to shoot that open corner 3? All right, if you do that, hit 5 threes, all right, fine. Like Caleb Martin, although I have more faith in him, but I would say it's gonna be a complete team win where like the Bucks, they come into Wells Fargo Center expecting to already win. And we see that too many times in the NBA when certain teams are undermanned, teams come in there against them thinking that it's going to be a cakewalk, and then they get, blown out, or it's really like, a sizable win right there. So I'm going to go out here and say 112 to 97 Sixers. That would make my freaking week, man. Yeah.
Miles has fully been converted. All right, I'm going to keep it real.
What an hour,
Sixers will keep it close for the first half. It'll be a good game. But ultimately, I think the star power will come through. I was going to say 112, but 104 for the Sixers. I think Maxey goes for about 36, but I just don't think the Sixers have enough. So I think they drop opening night, and then we go from there, and we see what happens. Let's see what the chat thinks. We got Bucks 111 to 89. Sixers 123, 122. What else we got? 113, 108 with no team prediction. So shout out to BC. Who else we got? Giannis will be held below 20, courtesy of Yabu. I'm gonna regret saying this.
Wow.
Philly wins an OT 127 to 122. King says realistically 115 to 105. 115, 110 because Middleton is out. Pete, what's up, man? He says, hard to say who goes off max. Going to see a lot of pressure. That's a good point. 35 and 11. Lester Quinones, full court 3 to win the game. Lester Quinones, man. And then Philly Shad, 106 to 101. Robert, 120 to 117. So, yeah, man. It's going to be an interesting game. I don't want the overreactions to come.
Yeah.
But I know they will because, Sixers Twitter after a game is just it's an interesting place. So, look, man, hope they can find a way to pull it out. If they do, then I will apologize, but it's hard to be optimistic. I'm more worried about when Embiid is actually going to come back on the floor. That's what I'm ready for. But it won't be this week, maybe next week when we're talking on this show. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Man. Somebody did say you're forgetting the variable of Doc Rivers to find a way to lose the game. Doc, if we've ever asked you for a favor, man. But Doc wouldn't take accountability for it, though. He would say it's on somebody else.
He's never come up short before as a coach. I don't know if you guys heard.
No,
Yeah,
he never has. Never has. I got one more, not even a bold take. What a piece of advice to the Sixers. You know what they should do during the pregame warmups? They should put a ladder right in front of the basket while Giannis is warming up. Get his head a little bit. Why not? Bring a ladder out. Take his basketball away. Make him go chase it.
And I think people might think this is small, but I think it's a very big deal. I'm just checking the Bucks depth chart real quick. Giannis's brother.
Yeah, not
he ain't on the squad no more.
Yeah, he tore his Achilles.
Yeah, and I know they were saying they're seriously considering. I know Sean's report. They're seriously considering, bringing him just for that morale, and it's morale for Giannis. It's not, it's strictly for Giannis, right? But I think that's a big deal. I saw this like Jeff Teague podcast when he was like, we was in the finals against the Suns, and Giannis was tripping out when he didn't see his brother. Like it was bad, and then because I think he had like COVID, and then he comes back, really had COVID, and but ended up bending some rules, and then you saw what Giannis did, 50 points, closeout game to win the chip. But I think that's a big deal, and something that not many people are talking about, like just the presence of Giannis's brother. I know it's jokes. I know it's like a Make-A-Wish kid and all this stuff and all the jokes, all that. But I think his team morale for Giannis is a big deal. Him not being there could be huge.
I'll be the bad guy in this situation then. I think if he gets a contract with the Bucks this year, it's worse than Bronny James. It's worse than the Bronny James situation. It's more egregious than that. We're talking about a dude with the torn Achilles who's never been a competent NBA player, and if his last name was Jones or Smith, that he'd be working a normal job like you guys, yourself and myself right now. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see if it happens, but yeah, it's an interesting point there.
Look, man, at the end of the day, do what it takes. Maybe the Sixers should sign him with the final roster.
That'd be a nice little head games move. All right, now you're talking. Yeah,
I'm thinking, man. I'm out here thinking. I'm on the go. But we'll see what happens, man. It's going to be an interesting time tomorrow. Shout out to everybody for coming through again, hanging with us. This was a great therapy session. I feel like I got it off my chest for sure. If you guys are watching on the replay, or if you're still in here, like the show for us, subscribe to the channel, check all these guys out, man. They do great work. Hopefully we'll have some answers next week. Hopefully we'll be back with some answers. And the Sixers hopefully will not be 0-3, because that would be an unfavorable start to the season.
Don't need that.
Somebody said earlier in the chat, who do they play after the first three? Maybe we are gearing up for a Joel Embiid debut against, wait for it, Tobias Harris, B-Ball Paul, and the Detroit Pistons.
Wow.
Maybe that's when he makes his debut. All right, man.
Take out some frustrations on Tobias for all those years.
Oh, yes.
Oh man.
Watch him drop like 25, 30 on us.
He better not.
That's
he better not.
That would just wow.
Not built for it. He doesn't have
it. All right, man. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys coming through. And Sixers open the season tomorrow against the Bucks. Enjoy the rest of your night. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.